How do everyone? Tommy here. Coming to you from Halifax. And I'm smoking an Rattray's old Gowrie pipe. Which, I love this pipe. Not a particularly expensive one, not a particularly high-end one, but it's a great pipe nonetheless, and one that I don't smoke often enough really. And in it, I'm smoking Rattray's Hallow the Wynd. It's going to be a bit of a video of two halves is this one. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the tobacco, give you a little overview of it, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson. So the tobacco, it's Virginia, Kentucky, Perique, about medium strength I'd say. A little bit stronger than Old Gowrie. And not as sweet as Marlin Flake. But a very lovely smoke all the same. Very grassy. Very earthy with a little bit of spice. Nothing but tobacco. Don't get any other kind of flavour in there. Maybe a little sort of hints of fruit, but only because of the processes involved. Really is a fantastic, robust smoke. Definitely one for the evenings, for me anyway. But yeah, most enjoyable. Easy to smoke. Benefits from some time in the jar, hence why I've got it in here. This has been in the jar, gotta be a good year and a half now. Something like that, about a year and a half. But it is lovely. I think it needs a little bit more drying time than I gave it, but because I am struggling to keep this lit. But that could also be my dodgy packing technique. But either way, it's a fantastic tobacco. I'd give it easily a 4 out of 5. Straight off the bat. I couldn't smoke it all day, but for a nice evening smoke over the spring, summertime, even autumn time, it's a great smoke. I really do enjoy it very much. Highly recommend it. So now on to the history lesson. And there's going to be a little bit of a linguistics lesson involved as well. You'll notice I keep calling this Hallow the Wynd. And a lot of people call it Hallow the Wynd. Well, it's not Hallow the Wynd, it's Hallow the Wynd. Now, a wynd is a narrow lane between houses. It's chiefly used in Scots English and also in Northern English from the Old Norse word "vinda," meaning to turn. It implies that it's off a main street but not necessarily curved. It's kind of like a ginnel or a snicket or an alleyway, but not quite as narrow. It is wider than that. It's some kind of in between a normal lane and an alleyway. And that's what a wynd is. So remember that, because that'll come up later. Now, this tobacco, Hallow the Wynd, is actually named after a character from history. A real life person from history rather, not a character. And this goes all the way back to September 1396. Before tobacco was ever in Europe. And there was the Battle of the North Inch in Perth, also known as the Battle of the Clans. Now this battle was a staged battle, and it was between the Chatton clan and Clan K. And when I say it was a staged battle, it was a battle with spectators. People who weren't affiliated with either clan, but merely spectators who were watching. And among the spectators was King Robert II of Scotland and his entire court. 30 men were selected by each clan to represent them for the battle, and it was held in the area of Perth known now as North Inch Park. Now, Clan Chatton was composed of Macintoshes, McPhersons, Davidsons, McGillivrays and McBeans. But as is often the case when there is a losing side in a battle, no sept or clan is willing to claim kindred with Clan K. Now, there's a lot of historians theorise that Clan K were aligned with Clan Cameron because Clan Cameron had a feud with Clan Chatton that lasted 360 years. So, you know, it sounds legit. At King Robert II's insistence, David Lindsay, 1st Earl of Crawford and Dunbar, attempted to get the clans to settle their differences amicably. Easier said than done though, because being the proud and fierce warriors they were, neither was willing to do that. So that plan failed, and so both sides agreed to a trial by combat in which 30 members representing each of their clans would go to battle, and the winners would be awarded honours and the losers would be pardoned. So that seemed a lot fairer to them. So once agreed, the clansmen assembled one Monday in late September and they marched through the streets of Perth, weapons in hand, bows, arrows, swords, axes, targes, knives, and they erected barriers on the three sides of North Inch Park, with the River Tay being the fourth barrier. Now, all was ready for the go-ahead. However, it then transpired that the Chatton clan only had 29 members of their warriors to represent them. Some historians claim that the absentee was a coward, others claim that he was sick, but no one really knows. I mean, let's face it, maybe he had a bit too much Dutch courage the night before. Either way, Clan Chatton weren't going to go into the fight at a disadvantage, and Clan K weren't willing to drop a member to even out the odds. So it started to look as though the battle was going to be abandoned, which would have been pretty bad news for Clan Chatton, it had made them look weak. But a substitute stepped forth, and his name was Henry Smith. He was also known as, you guessed it, Hallow the Wynd. Now Smith, he was an armourer from Perth, and he's been described as small in stature, bandy-legged but fierce, and they guaranteed him half a French crown of gold, and that he would be maintained for his remaining life if he survived. So he accepted, and the battle was given the go-ahead. Now, by all accounts, Henry Smith, Hallow the Wynd, was a very, very accomplished fighter. He wasn't a established warrior. He wasn't necessarily a main member of Clan Chatton, but he proved to be quite the secret weapon. Now, the best description I've found of the battle comes from Sir Walter Scott, and he wrote this in the Fair Maid of Perth. He wrote, "The trumpets of the king sounded a charge, the bagpipes blew their screaming and maddening notes, and the combatants, starting forward in regular order and increasing their pace till they came to a smart run, met together in the centre of the ground, as a furious land torrent encounters an advancing tide. Blood flowed fast, and the groans of those who fell began to mingle with the cries of those who fought. The wild notes of the pipes were still heard above the tumult, and stimulated to further exertion the fury of the combatants. At once, however, as if by mutual agreement, the instruments sounded a retreat. The two parties disengaged themselves from each other to take breath for a few minutes. About 20 of both sides lay on the field, dead or dying, arms and legs lopped off, heads cleft to the chin, slashes deep through the shoulder to the breast, showed at once the fury of the combat, the ghastly character of the weapons used, and the fatal strength of the arms which wielded them." It's better than I would have been able to describe it. The battle resumed until only 11 members of Clan Chatton remained, and one of the K's was alive. The final member of Clan K fled, realising all was lost, and it was victory to the Chattons. Their remaining fighters including, you guessed it, Hallow the Wynd. So, if that doesn't warrant having a tobacco named after you, then I'm not entirely sure anything else ever will it, you know? But it's an interesting and fascinating piece of history. And you now know what a wind is, and you know to stop calling this Hallow the Wynd. It's Hallow the Wynd. Respect Henry Smith's memory. And with that, I'm going to go. Thank you for watching. Give this a try if you haven't already. Give it a good 4 out of 5 any day of the week. It's a wonderful tobacco, and when you're smoking it, you can think about the history. So with that, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Take it easy, and I'll speak to you all again very soon. Cheers.